Did the priceless knowledge of ancient India end up packed away and hoarded in the Great Library of Alexandria? It's a popular historical rumor that the roots of mathematics and science were stolen from the East and swallowed by the West's most famous library. To trace the actual chain of custody, we have to start at the source. This is Nalanda University in India, a massive ancient center of scientific learning. And over 2,500 miles away is the supposed destination, the Great Library of Alexandria. Looking at this historical timeline, we can track Alexandria's intellectual peak. That peak faded out entirely by the 4th century AD, long before the rise of the Islamic empires often blamed for moving the texts. Nalanda University, meanwhile, wasn't even built until around 427 AD. It stood for centuries before burning down in 1193. The two institutions missed each other by hundreds of years. The millions of manuscripts at Nalanda never crossed the world. Historical records confirm they burned on site over the course of 3 months. So to find out how Indian concepts like the number zero and early calculus reached the modern world, we have to map a completely different route. The early Islamic empires expanding into India and Persia carried a religious mission that resulted in the physical destruction of many Hindu and Buddhist temples. Yet when the Abbasid Caliphate encountered the region's ancient sciences, they became deeply obsessed with studying them. During the 8th and 9th centuries, the caliphs built the House of Wisdom in Baghdad. They initiated a massive movement to acquire manuscripts on mathematics, astronomy, and medicine through diplomacy and trade, bringing them here for translation. Those translators were explicit about where their knowledge came from. The scholar al-Khwarizmi openly cited his Indian sources. He even referred to the numbers we use today as al-Arqam al-Hindiya, literally Indian numerals. Baghdad was a critical transit station. Scholars there functioned much like a modern academic journal. They took original source material, provided clear citations, and built new geometric theories on top of those foundations. If Indian mathematicians had already solved these complex problems, why was an extensive translation movement required in the first place? It comes down to formatting. Indian mathematicians, like Brahmagupta, recorded their discoveries in Sanskrit sutras, highly compressed poetic verses, where mathematics and sacred astronomy were tightly intertwined. Al-Khwarizmi took those complex poems and restructured them. He translated the mathematics into the linear, step-by-step prose that Greek and Western logical traditions demanded. This formatting filter stripped away the poetic context, making the raw data digestible to Western minds. But by repackaging the mathematics into a familiar structure, it set up perfect conditions for later readers to mistake translators for original creators. That repackaged math eventually entered Europe through a geographic bottleneck, Islamic Spain. When European scholars accessed the great libraries of Andalusia, they found a wealth of new scientific texts, but they were reading Arabic translations, not the original Sanskrit. Faced with this material, European scholars naturally credited the names of the writers whose books were sitting directly in front of them. In the process of translating those Arabic texts into Latin, the original creators were erased. The name al-Khwarizmi was Latinized into algorithm, and his cited term, Indian numerals, was struck out and rebranded globally as Arabic numerals. Initially, this was an accident of geography, a historical blind spot that cut off Western awareness of the Indian scholars who did the foundational math. This map shows the vast expanse of British colonial rule in India centuries later, once the West gained direct access to the region. We have to ask why they never corrected this massive academic error. The answer lies in politics. The British Empire justified its occupation through the narrative of the white man's burden, portraying their Indian subjects as scientifically backward and in need of Western administration. Acknowledging that those exact same subjects had invented the foundations of calculus, astronomy, and modern mathematics would instantly collapse the empire's moral justification. Historians call this textual imperialism. It is the deliberate, systemic editing of history by colonizers to deny the intellectual achievements of the people they conquer. Achieving true scientific literacy today requires looking past the names printed on the final translations. It means going back to the source, auditing the timeline, and giving figures like Brahmagupta and Aryabhata the global recognition stolen from them centuries ago.